Alright, the next console I want to cover is really an arcade system that they made a home console for, and that is the Neo Geo. This has some very high quality games. SNK, who makes the Neo Geo, they are well known for their fighting games, so there's a whole lot of fighting games on here that rival Street Fighter from Capcom and kind of go beyond it. They've got different types of fighting games. They've got sword fighting games and weapons fighting games, but a lot of the punch 'em up kind of with special moves and all that kind of stuff. But they've got Art of Fighting. Then there's quite a few shooters on here that are really high quality, and then you also have let's see, where's it at? Metal Slug. There they are. Let's start with those because those look really nice. Let's try Metal Slug 2. And unfortunately, you get the startup screens from the Neo Geo. They really like to promote their brand, so they bring up the you're playing on our hardware. And again, this is the arcade, and bringing the arcade home, and you can switch it into different modes, whichever mode you like. There. Got different characters you can pick from. I will pick that one.
Okay. Mission 1, start.
You've got grenades. You can jump. There's a little slowdown in this game. That's the way it was in the original.
Thank you. Thank you.
But this is the first one. They get better at the later releases. That's not the fault of the MiSTer. That's the original hardware. But that one's War in the Desert. And let's see what the theme this one has. Metal Slug 3. I'll just let it go into a track mode. This looks like desert islands, maybe some sea stuff. Looks like the bad guys are crabs in this one.
Thank you.
Really good sound. Looks like they've gotten rid of the most of the slowdown in the second edition or third edition of the game.
Thank you. Heavy machine gun.
Ooh, and flying bugs. Underwater action there. Some of these Metal Slug games give you one or more different vehicles that you can use in the game, different play modes and different levels. It's got a 2-player mode, so you can have 2 players playing at the same time, helping each other out. That's Metal Slug 3. Let's try Metal Slug 4. And some of these games are pretty big. They're in the tens of megabytes. Approaching 100 megabytes. So I sit down. Metal Slug 4. Like you got some vehicles in this game. Very violent. At some point I think you can get a flamethrower and set people on fire, and you've got rockets, all kinds of stuff. I think you'll probably get a rocket launcher from one of these guys, or maybe not.
Rocket launcher.
There we go. There we go, the rocket launcher. Nothing like blowing up guys from 5 feet away with a rocket launcher. Again, a two-player game if you want 2 players. Really nice. Let's see what 5's all about. But you can see how good the video quality, animation, and high detailed sprites, really good audio. They put a lot of development effort in these titles, and a lot of them are quite extensive in the number of levels and just the content that they have. A lot of content. Metal Slug 5. We'll just let it go into track mode. This one's probably got some different vehicles. Looks like it's maybe Aztec or Egyptian kind of based. So like to move around the world. The different games. Anyway, it's still violent and more explosions and fires and all that kind of stuff. Lots of different weapons to pick from. Metal Slug X. Or is that 10? I don't know. And of course, these have been ported to lots of different consoles, but these are the original arcade games from which all of those ports come from. Nothing like the original.
Metal Slug X!
Metal Slug X! Looks like World War II era. You got food and power-ups. There's your flamethrowers I was mentioning earlier. Look at those animations. Gotta jump over the bombs, kill the guys, set the POWs free.
Thank you.
There's different vehicles you can get. Either stealing it from the enemies or whatever. That's a rocket launcher.
Shotgun. Thank you.
Ooh, shotgun. And I think there's one more, the super vehicle one. I think this focuses on providing more vehicles that you can use. It's not like a racing game or anything like that. It's still a running gun, but more variety of vehicles probably. And I kind of overdid it on the Metal Slug games, but they're impressive and people love them to death. And they did very well in the arcades. So it's nice to have that on the MiSTer. And the Neo Geo core is extremely cycle accurate because they actually, the guys who made this core actually service Neo Geo arcade machines. They were running out of parts and they were getting tired of cannibalizing one system to fix another. So they designed all the parts at FPGA so that they could produce them as ASICs, and so they could make all of the chips that they needed. Well, they decided, hey, we can make this into a full-blown FPGA core and run it on the MiSTer. But you can totally take the hardware description language and make ASICs and reproduce the physical hardware for this and get the exact like the original. This is one of the closest to being 100% accurate cores that the MiSTer has. Again, because they took the chips and they used lasers on them and they shaved off microns at a time and took high resolution photography and got all the circuitry out of all the chips so that they could reproduce them.
Metal Slug.
Super vehicle. Okay, well, let's look at some of the fighting games that they have. World Heroes, I think, is a fighting game. They've got group fighting games, sort of like tag team kind of stuff, and they've got sword fighting games and weapons fighting games. Very well known for their fighting games. I think I mentioned that earlier. I should just shut up and just let you see. Very colorful, large sprites. I know these aren't sprites in the videos, but once you get into the game, the sprites are very large. Okay, show us some gameplay. People who are really getting into the Neo Geo will probably want to get a Neo Geo style controller with the same button layout and everything. And if you get the snack adapter, there is a Neo Geo adapter, so you can use the original Neo Geo controllers if you like. A lot of people who are into Neo Geo do that sort of thing. Alright, let's look at something else. Ooh, this is a brand new game that just came out in 2021. I bought this, I think, for like 20 bucks. The rest of them I found on archive.org, but this one I like to support when people come out with new games, because most of the Neo Geo games are decades old, or, you know, like 10, 20, 15 years. But this is a modern game that they're selling new, so I decided to support the folks. Alright. But it is a twin gun shooter, kind of like Robotron, but you know, much more modern with the graphics.
Your mission begins now.
And it's got power-ups and stuff to pick up. All kinds of I'm not good at the controls on this, it looks like. It's not the controls' fault, it's just me. I'm not used to playing this game very much. You kill all those guys. There we go.
Room cleared.
You get the idea. Twinkle Star Sprites. I think this is like a fairy shooter game. Let's see. Either that or it's a puzzle game. I turned up the audio last recording, so maybe I should turn it down some, because this is pretty loud. How about that? Now you can hear me better. Sorry about that. Let's see. Oh, so it is a shooter game. Ooh, several different modes to pick from. You can see these Neo Geo guys make really good, high quality games. So it's a competitive shooter game. And you can have two players going. I guess I'm playing against the computer at the moment. I'm not really paying attention. Let me play something else. Let's see. Windjammers. I believe that's kind of like a hockey table kind of game. Let's see. But every single game is arcade quality because that's where it came from. Flying Disc Game. I don't know why, but this game has a very large following and it is played competitively in tournaments and stuff like that. But you can see it's basically Pong just modernized. But people compete in this competitively for money even. Let's see. Let's get into some of the fighter games. Like there's Samurai Showdown. That's a sword fighter game with very elaborate graphics and panning and zooming. That's a whole series there. And there's quite a few fighting series. King of Fighters, I think I skipped over. I'll show that King of Fighters next. Very good music. I believe the Neo Geo stuff was 68,000 based, and they probably had multiples in there to do sound and video, but their hardware is super good compared to, like, you know, the consoles of the day. That's why they were so expensive, and their games were so expensive, because they were so big and took up so much RAM. To play all the Neo Geo games, you have to have the 128 megabyte SD RAM card. But you get the idea. It's a sword fighting game. I think there's some interaction with the backgrounds at some point. Okay, let's go to King of Fighters, just so you can see what some of those look like. Again, I imagine they'll have a fairly elaborate introduction. Excuse me. On their shooters, they have a lot of 3D rendered stuff, so maybe I'll show that next. Lots of characters to pick from. Imagine different fighting styles. And again, lots of zoom and pan and all that kind of stuff. Scaling. Special moves. These really do rival the Street Fighter series from Capcom. But again, if you're going to get into these, you really want to get a Neo Geo style controller. Of course, you can use anything you want, and you could probably learn it. This might take a little extra work if you're already familiar with the Neo Geo controllers. Like the playfield's pretty big. It's got maybe 2 or 3 screens wide. Those guys are rumble tumbling. You get the idea. Like I said, there's several different series of games. Fatal Fury's another fighting. Oh, what was I going to show? Some shooters. Arrow Fighters 2? None of that. I don't know if I played this game before. Well, they changed the theme up a little bit by using different instrument selections. Really good music. Whoa. It's a vertical shooter, but it's horizontal, so you get the full screen, and it looks like you can play 2 players very easily. It looks like a really good game. What is Alpha Mission? You know, when you have so many games, there's only so much time you can get into them. But if you got some friends over and you want to compete with each other, really makes it way more fun than doing it by yourself. Alpha Mission 2. A more traditional shooter than the last one. Space alien. Very detailed backgrounds. I imagine there'll be drop-offs and stuff like that. I wonder if there's a bombing element to it as well as the shooting in the air. It looks like there is. So you can bomb the ground and there'll be different targets on the ground. Ooh. Upgrade your ship. Give it more armor, I'm guessing. To show you one of those 3D ones, I think it begins with an R. Well, P, Pulsar. Let's check this one out. This is more of a 3D rendered, pre-rendered, not quite a full 3D game, but some of the graphics look 3D modeled. Anyway, there's just a pretty large library of Neo Geo arcade games, and you can play them all, and they work great. Again, it is extremely accurate to the original hardware. If you had the machine, it would be frame by frame exactly matching. That's just how accurate it is. You're getting a Neo Geo in your MiSTer. So you can see overlap backgrounds, 3D animated sprites and whatnot. This isn't the only one like that. This looks like R-Type with that thing bolted on the front of the machine. Let's see, I think there was one that began with B, maybe? Baseball stars. Let's look at a sports game, see what we got. Sports games aren't too bad sometimes. Just not into the football and the basketball. In soccer, when you've got a whole lot of players you got to control. I think this has a really good golf. A couple of different really good golf games to pick from. This one looks passable. Okay, a couple different blazing stars. There it is. Let's see what this one looks like. Okay, show us some gameplay. Kind of reminds me of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Blazing Star. 2-player game. So look at that 3D looking 2D game. It's got 3D rendered and scaling sprites. The sprites are pretty big. Oh, lots of good audio. I'd like to have some music in there. That lady's kind of annoying. Alright, let's look at another shooter, sort of. It's got and since these are arcade games, they have to show you what the controls are. And most of them do that if you let them sit there long enough. Let's see. What is it called? I think it's got a P. Prehistoric Isle. Again, this has a lot of 3D rendered stuff in it. Very good quality game. Most all their games are 2 players because they want to get as many quarters from people as they can. Show us some actual gameplay. So you see how stuff comes in and turns around, and all kinds of different power-ups and different weapons and upgrades. Can save the people sometimes. Not quite Choplifter, but alright, it's enough of that. SNK versus Capcom. That'd be Super Fighter with all the SNK characters and all the Capcom characters. Capcom and SNK did do some crossovers quite a few times. Really good music, man. They're really into that plus part. SNK versus Capcom. Ooh. Set him on fire for a second there. That guy's a rubbery guy. Anything else worth noting on here? I don't know what that is, but it's probably a fighting game. Shingoku. Neo Geo has a lot of franchises. It is a prophecy passed down. I can't even read fast enough. Timeless soul, revive and surrender. Thereafter, flames conflict will engulf the earth. The prophecy ends thus. The ninjas of peace shall rise. This must be a ninja fighting game. A two-player beat-em-up looks like. Not a traditional fighting game, but maybe a beat-em-up. With more intricate levels and things to interact with. That looks like a pretty interesting game. Whoa. Well, I'm not sure if it's a beat 'em up where you have a side scroller large level to it or not, or if it's just a fighter with more elaborate backgrounds to interact with. Anyway, Neo Geo is just awesome. Anything else we're showing? Shock Troopers. What is that? I think that might be a run and gun vertical, but I don't remember. Let's see. Yeah, who could read that at that speed? Everybody's got guns, so I guess it's a run and gun. Okay, what does the actual gameplay look like? Yeah, it kind of reminds me of some of the Capcom. So it's like Metal Slug, except vertical scrolling. That actually looks pretty interesting. That could be pretty fun. Has it got some side scrolling too? Instead of just totally vertical. I hope you can co-op some of those vehicles at some point, maybe. Imagine different characters have different types of weapons. Might be a strategy to picking the right thing for the right level. Alright, that's enough of that. Spin Masters. What is that? Of course, we got to see the Neo Geo thing again. Pro Gear. Spec. What the heck? They're using yo-yos as weapons, it looks like, maybe? Yeah. So it's a more cutesy war kind of game with destruction from yo-yos. Boy, that's a lot of fire. Very, very colorful. Let's go through another track mode. Data East is kind of known for making cheap games, but Neo Geo has a certain level of quality they need to meet. Okay. It's elements of a platformer and a run and gun. This might be interesting. Stakes winner. Those might be gambling games? I don't know. Let's see. It's a horse racing game? Boy, they got quite a variety of games on this platform. Boy, pretty cool music. I hope that was not too loud. I think that should be good. Okay, that's enough of that. Street Hoop. Strikers 1945 plus. Is this sort of like an airplane game like Capcom has? And I guess you could just go in for hours to these Neo Geo games. And there are quite a few puzzle games like Tetris and the gym type games. Well, this looks like a... Would it be a 3D or a 2D? I'm guessing 2D. $19.99. There we go. It's a shooter. Just like the 19XX series on Capcom. But they give you a lot of your screen in use, so you've got status and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm glad to see that. That looks pretty good, actually. Anyway, that's enough of the Neo Geo. I could go on and on.